How's it going, guys? This is the legend and my buddy, the king,
What's up,
and
everyone?
we're coming at you today. We're bringing you a tier list, everybody's favorite, of all of the heroes from the latest build of Predecessor. Since we had a moment to kind of digest all of our footage and stuff that we got from the past playtest.
We just want
So
to put a disclaimer that these are our opinions and our thoughts. If you
yeah,
guys agree
right.
with us or disagree with us, please let us know. We'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are and just be able to discuss the hero states with the community. Also, quick shout out to Joey Youngfits for letting us use his videos.
So without further ado, let's go ahead. I'm gonna start with Drongo.
Drongo, the Wastelander, was an ADC, mostly taking the dual lane, and he had a lot of damage in his kit. I like his passive, where he was able to do extra damage based off crit with his abilities. He had his silence, which was nice, and his his not rat rounds, but his shrapnel cannon, his ulti, which allowed him to reposition or get to safety if he was getting ganked or out of position. The jungles that we saw would were kind of like average, right? We didn't.
They're pretty. Yeah, they're pretty average. I don't have anything either direction to say about most of what we encountered, at least.
Yeah, I mean his rad rounds seemed like they were chunked for quite a bit, but like,
Yeah, they caught me off guard. To be honest, they caught me off guard a few times because they'd be like, "Oh, okay, I'm fine," and then just be like, "Ooh," and you have like another quarter of your hit points are gone.
yeah, and if you had like a good Drongo, like obviously they would do well in terms of carrying their team, but overall I just felt like he was just average. You know, not too great, not too underpowered. And this was just coming from the Drongos that we experience ourselves.
Yeah, I get they're trying to go with different builds, but it seemed like he was not as good as the other carries because I think his build path was a little bit different because of how he did build dot and stuff like that. But
Yeah, so overall, I would say Drongo is a solid B tier pick. Not too strong, not too weak. If you played him well, you obviously did well in carrying your team, but if you like fell behind or if you don't know how to play him, he just didn't do much for the team.
yeah, exactly. I think B tier is a safe spot for him as well.
So Drongo, our first hero, is being placed in the B tier. Next up on our list is a personal favorite of mine, Fang Mao.
Yeah, he wanted to take the intro away from me with Fang Mao, but I wouldn't let him.
Sad, sad.
Okay, so Fang Mao off lane primarily is where I saw him go. He probably had some potential in the jungle. I just hadn't seen it very happen when we were playing myself. But yeah, he's definitely a bruiser slash assassin. Either way is pretty safe for him for a build path. He had a very high skill ceiling, I think, because he had a lot of different moves that did a lot of different things, and with his dash also having verticality with it, able to traverse some of the things that other characters wouldn't be able to. It was pretty nice to see some of the things that a good Feng Mao could pull off.
hmm And
Speaking of good Feng Mao,
you know, being a OG Fang Mao player, playing him since Legacy, climbing to Diamond in New Dawn, um, Fang Mao has always been a personal favorite of mine. Uh, One, because I got stomped by an AI that was playing Fang Mao back during my early days, um, and I picked him up and never looked back.
nothing like a good humbling.
But I was very happy that they brought him in Predecessor. And looking at his abilities, he had a lot of scaling. So Fang Mao, he had a lot of. I would say he had a weaker early game in terms compared to like the offlane champs or heroes
Yeah,
that.
some of the other offline champs were they were very in your face right from the get go.
Yeah, and he had a lot of mobility for sure, with his shield giving him movement speed, with his dash obviously being able to have that extra blink with the kit. He had a lot of mechanics that could be utilized to like really get a lot out of his kit. But if he didn't use his kit properly, then you just fell flat with him.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
for
did not
sure.
see a lot of Feng Maos do that well.
I almost never play Feng Mao because Josh is our resident solo laner. From the couple games of solo that I did play, I don't believe he's the best solo laner. Well, let me restate that. He's not the easiest to play, but he has very high potential, very high skill gap. So if you come across a competent Fang Mao, yeah, he's definitely a threat to have to deal with. But he is one of the more technically need more skills on the character in order to play him at that higher level of play.
And I agree. He definitely had a higher skill cap in the game. If you needed to make sure you use his abilities correctly, especially in like a close fight. So I think Fang Mao. I don't know. I would say A tier. What do you think?
I'm honestly going to give him another B tier just because, yeah, I think you just have so much skills from Paragon that it's really you just pop off with him every game. But I think that the average player he's going to be a little bit harder to get into and harder to play. So that's probably what I'm thinking at least.
So B in terms of a skill floor, but A in terms of a skill ceiling. But I can go with that. So
Yeah, I can agree with either of those.
Fang Mao in the B tier.
All right, third up on our list, we got the Fae.
The Fae, the Everblossom, is a mid lane control mage that some people took in the support lane, like they used to in Paragon. And to be honest, like her kit, like her E was good. I like the idea that they try to do with it, where it stacked with damage, but I don't know. She just felt kind of there. She didn't offer a lot. Her numbers were kind of low. Um, she had her OT, which provided a lot of CC, but outside of that, she just didn't have anything else.
Yeah, a lot of Faes. We didn't see a lot of them in the first place, but the ones that we did see, they kind of were just you get hit by her combo, and then you're just like, all right, where were we? Just dust yourself off real quick. Even her, even her ultimate, it's supposed to be doing significant damage in my mind. It just felt like it just didn't do much.
I mean, rank 3, I'm looking at the numbers right here. In rank 3, 300, with a 60% AP scaling, it just, it's weak for an OT that's supposed to be, like, game-changing.
I suppose it's supposed to be more of a displacement, but it, I mean, it does the displacement, but then it's just kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't, I wasn't, I didn't, I don't think she really was that great.
It just, she felt really weak. Definitely needs a buff. And I think Faye, being our third hero in our tier list, is unfortunately going to go into the F tier.
Yeah, it's probably I didn't see enough good play come out of her in order to place her anywhere else, honestly. So I think I'm gonna have to agree with that F tier for me.
So sorry, Faye. Even though you were hyped up when Meta Studios announced you, you just fell flat. So you are our first F tier champion. So following the Fae, we have the Machinist, Gadget.
Gadget, mid lane, primarily is where I saw her end up going. She felt pretty good. She had a lot of poke in the early game with her seeking mind, just being able to just lock onto you, and there's no way to really dodge it in the early game. Her ultimate was also really good. Like I remember, when you were under it for the most part, unless you had like a very strong champion. It hurt a lot. I feel like sometimes it was hard visually to tell when you're in it,
Yeah.
because if you were like really in it, it was just kind of like just everything looked the same. So sometimes it was a little bit hard to actually tell that you were in her ultimate, which is more of a visual thing than a mechanics thing. But
Yeah, having some more visual clarity when you're in her ulti would be a little bit nice. Or maybe we just gotta pay attention more. Maybe we were just blind. You know, Gadget, she had a lot of damage in the kit. Her OT, her mine, his sticky mine. I won't lie, it was kind of hard to hit her abilities. Like I had trouble, and maybe I'm just bad, but I had trouble hitting her Seek and Destroy, her slow field, and the sticky mine. Like you had to kind of predict in lane where to throw it on the sticky mine, and she had no escape other than her security gate, which I love how they added that if any enemy heroes pass through her security gate, they get rooted.
Yeah, that was a really cool addition. That was one of the things I was going to bring up. If you didn't, you get rooted if you run through it as an enemy. Since it was new, I had that happen to me multiple times.
Yeah, because it's not something that we were used to, but we'll learn, you know. Outside of that, if you got jumped on by a gadget, it was tough to do anything. Or not by a gadget, he got jumped on as gadget. It was tough
I
to do
didn't realize
anything.
Gadget could jump, Josh.
Yeah, well, I mean, who knows? A meta? Maybe you want to add a jump in gadget's kit? Maybe not. Maybe that sounds like a terrible idea. It does sound like a terrible idea. But yeah, so Gadget, she had a lot to offer, a lot of damage.
I feel like that's all she really had. Yeah, is just damage. She
Yeah,
didn't have whole lot of other utility.
if you end up missing your abilities, which was easy to do as Gadget, then you're just kind of useless. So Gadget, I would say, is our first C tier champion.
Yeah. All right. Next up on our list, we have the original mid laner that I'm aware of, Gideon.
The OG mid laner, Gideon. Gideon was one of the first mid laner, first champions I ever played back in Paragon, and you know he's back here in Predecessor.
I was in that as well.
Good times, good times. He had a similar kit to what he had back in Paragon during the later stages after New Dawn, or V42 as a lot of people know it by, where he had his Cosmic Rift, Void Breach, the Slowing Meteor, and then his Teleport. His OT, thankfully, does not stun, but to compensate for that, they put in a lot of damage back into his OT. And his passive was kind of unique. I kind of like it because his passive just made it a lot easier to kind of land your abilities, especially your Q, by slowing people in between ability usage. Kind of like a Lichbane's bow blade proc. I think he had a lot to offer in the mid lane.
I thought he was, yeah, I really enjoyed playing as him in the games that I did. He was a one of the better characters, honestly, in my opinion. He had a lot of damage, he had a lot of escape potential, his portal and his ability to slow other characters, and his iconic meteor. I think Chunks, dude, that hurts. I really enjoyed playing as him. I really enjoyed playing against him. I think he was a very viable character in this latest open playable build.
And I like how there was a lot of balancing with his teleport. It's not like he can just teleport out of anything. People could take it, teammates could take it, and enemies can take it.
Enemies could take it, yeah.
Yeah. However, one thing I didn't know during a playtest was that enemy heroes would be slowed by 50%. So it's not like they can just take it and run after you, but there's that fine line of balancing to where it's not too overly broken.
See, I did not even know that that enemies got slowed.
Yeah, the more you know. So next time you're playing this game, make sure you look out for gating portal enemies or your teams that you can just take in just by hopping into it. So I don't know. Where would you put Gideon on the tier list?
I'm not gonna lie, I really thought he was very viable and very good. I'm gonna go with A tier on him, honestly.
I think I would agree. I think A tier for Gideon, for the OG mid laner, is a fair spot to put him.
Being the face of the game does kind of help too. A face of the game does kind of help too.
I agree. Like Gideon, Steel, those are like the faces of Paragon when I think about it. And the next person we have on our list, the center of attention of the last playtest, Howitzer.
You know, that's true. They did add him right before the last playtest. Howitzer, he was definitely fit in mid lane. He had some potential in offlane, I could see, with his bumper binds and just his long range attack ability. I thought he was pretty good. He did a lot of damage, but he was very squishy. I really like what they did with his ultimate, because he had his ultimate back in Paragon was kind of meh. I never really noticed it when it went off. It didn't hurt all that much, and it was just kind of extra effects, in my opinion. So I really like what they did with his sped up cooldowns and his maneuverability while all up in the air. And just to add another layer upon it, him being able to get hit by a well-placed thunk or something, I think that was really slick.
Howie had a lot of unique things in his kit. One thing that I like that you said was his new OT. Unlike before, where it was pretty much like a Gadget OT 2.0, just a big old AoE with a bunch of damage.
It added a little bit of individuality to him.
Yeah, and it also allowed him to reposition during team fights to let you get the angle to bypass the front line during team fights and go straight for the squishies, to where it was difficult for the enemy team to focus you. While they're playing on the floor, you're playing in the sky. You're cosplaying like an airplane.
I like that.
So Howie had a lot of good things in his kit. His passive was similar to what it was in Paragon, where it did splash damage with his auto attacks, and he also was chunking quite a bit with his Qs when you build some pen on him, especially once you get the combustion item. Combustion and Howie just like was a huge power spike for him. So Howie felt pretty strong. I would honestly put him in the A tier. What do you think?
I don't know if I'd go with A. I feel like he has a couple negatives to him that just fit better in more of a B tier. Like bringing back the point, he could be stunned out of his ultimate, which would not be a good time if you were a Howitzer.
That's true.
His bumper mines could be hard to get placed because they have a delay to them. So if you don't place them correctly where you want them, they could end up shooting you both off in the same direction. Obviously, you got your just plain missed skill shots with his missile. So I do think he's really good, but I think he has enough negatives to, rather than an A tier, have him be more of a B tier hero.
You know what? And with those points, I can understand putting him in the B tier, because he does have like potential to like misplay with the bumper mines, with missing his skill shots. So, you know what? He has potential to be in the A tier, but putting him in the B tier is, I think, the right call.
Thanks.
So, Howie's in the B tier.
All right, so now it's my turn for personal favorites. Killari.
Killari was a assassin, mostly suited for the jungle. You could take her off lane if you wanted a cheesy pick, and she had a lot of mobility, a lot of damage in her kit early on. And since you're the Killari expert here, go ahead and give us your thoughts about her.
Yeah, so Killari. When back in Paragon, she was definitely my main. I played her an absolute ton, both. No, not in Legacy, Monolith. I did not get the hang of her in this last open build. Very different. They had a lot of changes with her ultimate changing, obviously, from the global to the original, which I can appreciate. I like the global ult, but I can see the point in changing it. Also, the double daggers. I also found myself multiple times not realizing that I had the second one because I wasn't used to having it. And also her mark. I had a hard time getting my combo down because I'd forget about it. I'd mark at the end of the combo rather than the beginning because it just was so different. So she definitely felt very different than what I was used to. I still had a good time playing her. Didn't play as many games as I wanted to because I've had a lot of fun elsewhere.
Yeah, she had a much different place though, I would say, this time
Really
around.
did.
Like, I think a lot of her kit revolved around her E. I never had.
It definitely did, definitely.
I didn't have a chance to play Killari, but it seemed like, especially early game, I mean, like, that E did true damage, man. I think nobody else in the game had true damage. In terms of champion or hero abilities, I know there were some items that had true damage attached to it, but in terms of abilities, it was just Killari who had true damage.
Yeah, I agree. I've playing those last couple days. I saw some really good Killaris. I also saw some really bad Killaris, myself included in the later section. But she was pretty fun. In my opinion, I think she was probably a C tier, honestly, just because I couldn't get the hang of her.
Yeah.
Granted, if I play her more and get better, that could change, but as it stands.
And I could see that. I could agree with that because, like, the Killaris that I saw in my game were kind of lackluster. They didn't offer a lot, and especially.
She's another one of those heroes that have the higher skill gap, like Fang Mao. Like, they can get really good if you know how to play them, but if you don't, they're kind of there.
I'd say Killari being in the C tier is pretty justified. And next up is a community favorite that everybody loves, Chimera.
If you know me at all, I disagree with that. However, he is very popular. He's very good right now. I think his healing ability might be a little bit overtuned. Chimera and I have issues together.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We were both Kai mains, so it's like, even though we switched from him, at one point, we used to main him, and Now we just have that like ex-girlfriend resentment that we have towards him. So I
Yeah,
understand what you mean though.
he's his kit's built around health regen and insane amount of damage with his current build. He was really good. He was probably one of the very most top tiers in my opinion for this build. He would his distance close with his jump let him stick to enemy heroes really good. But it also, since you could target minions, it could be used as a small escape, I noticed, which was kind of neat. I didn't realize it last build. So you can target enemies and minions with that jump, and then obviously you have his attack speed boost to start you off with those stacks and get the insane health regen going.
Really quick, looking at his abilities right now, it seems like you can only jump to jungle minions. You couldn't jump to enemy minions.
Well, that's interesting then, because I must have every fight that I was playing with him must have been in the jungle, because I remember doing that more than
Hey,
once.
Kai lives in the jungle, the king of the
You
jungle.
know, it makes sense.
Yeah, Kai had a lot of damage. He was able to stack up very quickly, and I love what they did with his E, where instead of making it his passive regen, you could consume your stacks of regen and get a burst of health, or also cleanse CC if you had, 15 stacks. So you had like more potential to outplay your opponents, because the main way of playing around Kai is by CCing him and making sure he doesn't build up stacks.
I
But
didn't realize he had you could use his stacks and use them as a resource. That's a little bit. It makes him a little bit more interesting than I originally just thought.
yeah, he was very easy to play. He wasn't too difficult, and you and I have the same thought. Kai is a pub stomper. He's a elo inflator. It's very easy to play him, but it's also very easy to play around him. I remember he tried to gank me a couple of times, and I would just escape from him.
Yeah, you just build the one item to lessen health regen, and he's not irrelevant anymore, but his threat level drops significantly.
Because a lot of Kai's kit revolves around him and his healing, and
Exactly.
if you take away his healing after his initial burst with his Q and his ulti, he doesn't really offer a lot. He was very one-dimensional, as in go in and try to face tank,
You
the
get the
entire
kill, and
enemy
if he
team.
couldn't, then yeah, he's kind of there. Granted, he was fairly tanky too, so he had his sustain was a pretty scary combination, but he could be bursted down pretty fast too if you built the right items.
Yeah, so I would say he was definitely S tier in this test, just because of how much people didn't know how to play around him. But
Oh
I
yeah,
would
he was very popular too. He used it in almost every game that we played.
almost every single one. People love their Chimera. So, but I would say if you knew how to play around him, he would be a B or C tier. However, for this stress test, I would say he was an S tier.
I 100% agree. I think he belongs up there. He was one of the best heroes, most often picked that I saw.
Well, welcome to the S tier, Kai, and thank you for being our first hero up there. Also, we hate you very much, and we hope that we don't see you in our games.
Alright, so after our first S tier Kai, we're going to move into Bellica.
Lieutenant Bellica, the prosecutor. Lieutenant Bellica had like the same kit that she did in Paragon, with the added passive of having an extra effect once your abilities hit rank 5, which I thought was really cool. She was the mid lane or support control mage that allowed her to control the opponent's or the enemy team's mana. She had a lot of CC with her knockup and her stun, but the kit sounds good on paper, but executing it was a different story, and I did not see a lot of people execute her kit that well.
Yeah, it really seemed like most of what people were able to pull off was the knock-up stun into the Void Bomb. But I ain't seen very many plays beyond that, honestly. Like, she has her drone, but it doesn't seem to do a lot of mana drain, in my opinion. I never ran into issues while it was out. Also, it seemed like people were having a hard time using her ultimate correctly. For example, a lot of people were just using it as a damage item rather than paying attention to how much mana they had to make sure they got the most bang for the buck.
It was almost like they didn't even read the description of the ability. They just saw, hey, R does damage, R locks on. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty as charged, but yeah, I knew what it did just from my experience with Paragon.
she felt like she just wasn't present in team fights outside of her knockup, and her bomb didn't even do like that much damage. So I don't know, like Bellica just felt like she.
There wasn't a lot of them either. She wasn't a very highly picked character from what we ended up seeing.
Yeah, taking all of those factors into consideration, she wasn't totally useless like the Fae, because she did offer good gank setup with her seismic assault when she would knock someone up and stun them. But I don't know, I put her in the D tier.
Yeah, I wasn't too impressed. I think a C or a D is a safe spot for her.
Yeah, so Bellica, you are our first hero who's put in the D tier. And I think on Bellica is a good place to stop for now. First,
Halfway.
yeah, halfway. We recognize that there was a lot to talk about with these champs, and we don't want to make this video too long. So we're gonna go ahead and end part 1 here.
Yeah, we gotta make sure we give justice to all the other 8 heroes because yeah, we talking a lot more than I was expecting to, but it's a good thing because it's good discussion, bring up some good conversation points.
So thank you guys for joining us, for watching this video. We hope you like it, and if you agree with us, let us know. If you disagree with us, I'm sure you guys will let us know about that too. So make sure
Please do.
yeah, to like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to get part 2 out to you here soon.
Catch you later.